Good evening. This is the meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. It's our first one on TV, so this is a very exciting moment here. So we can't sit in a circle anymore, but at least we'll be televised. So let's see. We have, I believe everybody is here who's going to be here, right? Because Bill and Tracy are not here. Our first item is Affordable Housing Trust, and Laurie, I guess that's yours. And is this one copy or copies for everybody, or what do you?
We all got it.
Okay, good. Okay, so if you want to take us through it however you want, feel free to go ahead. And I don't know if you want to come up, sit in the middle, or if it's easier. I feel like I need a megaphone to.
Up to you.
Yeah, why don't you come up here just so you're.
Okay.
A little closer, so.
So, the Affordable Housing Trust, the money that we used that was allocated to us from the funds last year were for 13 Anna Street, which has been totally renovated. Unfortunately, it's in the impacted area, so our application seminars have to be delayed somewhat until we know what's going on. But this report is required to be given to the CPC, so it just tells us what we spent the money on. It tells you what we spent the money on so that you can report it to the state in your report, because we have to make sure that the CPC funds that we use are used according to the statute, because we have our own funds that we can use for things that you couldn't use CPC funds on.
So if, can you talk a little bit about more broadly, I mean, this one project, again, maybe for some of the members of the committee are new, like how you pick projects and.
Sure. So this is our 6th unit, 5th house that we've done. We partner with Bread and Roses Housing. They have a land lease on the property. We give them a grant, the Affordable Housing Trust gives them a grant, and they use that to purchase the property, and then they take out a loan to make the renovations, and they'll sell it to a buyer at an affordable price, and they retain the land lease on it, so it's affordable in perpetuity. This particular project was a little more than we typically would spend on a single residence, but it was a good opportunity to help restore the neighborhood. It was getting a little rundown, and it's a beautiful property. It's a beautiful house. And the contractor ran into asbestos issues. So once you're in there, you have to address it. So, I don't think so. I know that a couple of people were hoping it would be, but the last thing I'd want to do is subdivide that and add another house there. I mean, it's a beautiful yard. It's a great family home. And, it's unfortunate with everything that's going on that, we had hoped to have somebody in there, but.
Am I right in terms of the total cost? You had 100 plus 179 plus 242, and that comes to the total amount?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's over 500,000.
429.
No, 429 is the total.
429, yeah.
That's the total.
How much?
I think it was 429.5.
Okay.
And it's going to be sold for, I believe, 310. But don't quote me on that, because I'm not positive. I can get that information for you.
So Laura, that 310 wipes out the mortgage on the property, and then the surplus goes back to Bread and Roses?
The buyer takes out their own mortgage.
Okay.
And then Bread and Roses, right, they will get whatever, because they own the land, so whatever is
Okay.
over and above the mortgage payoff, that goes into Bread and Roses.
Okay. But then you said they have a land lease in perpetuity, or they
Yep,
have?
so the house will always be an affordable unit for
Okay.
99 years anyway.
Okay.
How are you finding now, like, do you have a I don't know how much money you have in aggregate, but are you finding lots of properties you're interested in, and what's the balance between supply and demand here?
Well, we have a meeting on Tuesday, and one of the main topics of our meeting, and we discussed it at our last meeting, is to come up with our action plan for the year. We are moving away from this because the market is just ridiculous. And unless we can get a property like we did with May Street that was 140, basically for the land and tearing down the house, it's just not something that we can sustain. It would be great. We looked at some tax titles that, may be on the radar next year, but again, you're talking about the impacted area, and the last thing we're gonna do is approach somebody about their property when, we're dealing with all this stuff, so.
What about the Beverly Street property, the two-family down there that seems to keep going lower and lower?
Beverly, I'm not familiar with that one.
Last house on Beverly Street, just before the highway, it's down to, I think, 179, last I saw. It's a two-family.
Are you sure it's not condos and it's 179 aside?
No,
It's
no.
179 for a two-family?
It's very
Oh.
run down. It's going to be a tear down probably.
Okay, I had no idea about that, and I know that Justinia does have a broker that keeps an eye on properties, so
Yeah.
I can check into that. But we're gonna, at our last meeting, we talked about doing our own action plan based on the housing production plan, which is also used for the master plan, and so the things that are assigned to the Affordable Housing Trust, we're going to go through that list, decide what it is we want to take on. Most of the stuff we already do anyway, where if you see in the housing production plan, it says ongoing, that there's certain things in there that we're already doing. We have a couple of ideas for what we can't use CPC money for, one of them, which is we're going to try to do a home repair program for seniors to help them stay in their homes through Mass Saves, to go in and do an audit and then help them pay for whatever needs to be done as a result of that audit. So that's our next sort of goal, and then,
I think that's a great idea.
yeah, yep. Something we've been thinking about for a while. We just needed to get through the Anna Street project, and we have something else that may be coming up next week, but I don't have the details on it yet, so. But we will be putting in an application this year.
Good.
And we will have a specific project, not just the 100,000 for, our use. We're gonna have, we have a plan that, we think, if it goes through, that will, I think you'll be happy with it.
Deb, do you have any questions?
How many families usually are looking to, get a house? How many applicants do you have?
I think at the last seminar, maybe 20 people showed up, but not all of them applied. They probably got half the applications. And unfortunately, this was the first seminar we did with Anna Street, there was not a qualified buyer. We have come to find out that we are in desperate need of a financial literacy training for our residents, especially those that are trying to get out of the public housing. They don't understand the finances of owning a home. There is a program that used to happen through the Housing Authority, the self-sufficiency program, but I don't believe, Mary Beth can probably talk about this better than I can, but I don't believe they're running it anymore.
The woman that ran it actually left and went,
Yeah.
and they reconfigured.
We actually had two of our residents on May Street came to us because of the self-sufficiency program. They came out of the housing down on Gilbert and Francis Street. So we are, Justinia is working with Merrimack College to try to see if we can come up with a plan to get a financial literacy course in place to try to help our residents understand it better. But, because they have to meet the qualifications to be a homeowner. They have to have a down payment. They have to be able to qualify. Their credit has to be able to qualify.
I used to do a lot of work for Freddie and Fannie And they have a pretty good financial literacy program that they will often help municipalities out with.
Oh, okay.
So I'd be happy to connect you with somebody there.
Yeah, that would be
to do
great.
that. Yeah. Also, I sit on the board of advisors for the United Way of Merrimack Valley.
Okay.
And we have a financial literacy program as well. So
Okay.
we have a board meeting in 2 weeks. So I could talk about it then with them and see if we can do something to help.
All
too.
right, great. That would be wonderful, because, yeah, I mean, there is a need, so it would be great. It's something to benefit.
Just to follow up on your experience at the United Way, is there much of an emphasis on housing programs that would dovetail with things like this, or is it mostly just social services?
That's right. Most
Yeah.
social
Okay.
services, yeah.
Yeah. CJ, any? Good, good. Anything happening related to, like, the buybacks of the affordable condos to keep them as affordable units?
We haven't seen that they're not selling to affordable buyers. We have asked CHAPA to let us know if when the 20 or 80, 120 days, I believe it is up, because the Board of Selectmen waives their right of first refusal before it goes on the market, not after it goes on the market when you see if there's an affordable buyer lined up or not. But they can't list it until the board waives it. So because they waive it, we've asked CHAPA to tell us if it ends up coming out of affordable and going on for market rate, we want to know first, because then we may want to purchase it. But we haven't been finding that that's been happening. I will tell you that we received an email from CHAPA about the Oak Ridge, what's the Oak Ridge Village condominiums? Might not be Oak Ridge Village. Maplewood Ave, Oak Ridge, I believe they're the ones up on 114. They have put a special assessment to all the condo unit owners, but they have actually doubled. And our affordable owners are going to be paying $700 a month in condo fees, which they cannot afford. So if something's not done, those condos, a lot of them will be foreclosed on. So CHAPA has reached out to us to ask if there's anything that we can do. We're talking about it at the next meeting. It's really out of our control. I'm amazed that the condo association would vote it, but apparently there was some mismanagement and repairs need to be done, and they have no money, so.
Is this the place that's still being built that's a bit of
It
a
is.
mess?
It's Maplewood Reserve, Oak Ridge Village, Maplewood Reserve. I think it's the one on 114.
Right on, you know,
It is, right?
Yeah.
Right on the border of Middleton.
Yep. On the left if you're going towards Middleton, right? Or is it the one on the right?
It's the one on the right,
Oh,
and it's
no,
like,
no, that wouldn't be that one.
yeah, the Sharpeners Pond Road is,
Opposite the entrance.
yeah,
Oh, so
opposite
it's
the
the one,
entrance.
so they're not still building.
I don't know, I think that maybe the townhome's in the way back, but I've never been back there.
It's Heritage Street or Heritage Road or
Yeah,
something like
but
that.
it is directly across from Sharpeners Pond.
I thought it was the gray ones on the left, but
No,
it's not. Okay.
How many affordable residents are in that project?
Oh,
Do you know?
There's, well, it was a 40B project, so I don't know how many total were in there, but was it, John, do you remember?
Is that I mean, let's assume it's the larger one that was built, you know, pretty much 8-10 years ago. Have you seen that to raise the condo fees to a really high level, almost as a way to?
Well,
mean,
I questioned whether it was even legal, but it is.
Yeah.
And which is, again, why I always tell people who own condos, go to your condo association meetings, because that's where the decisions are made. And they did
Yeah.
have a meeting, and they did inform all their residents, and they did have a vote. And they are paying less than the other unit owners, because it's the affordability fraction, but that paying less is still doubling it. So it's a little over $700 a month.
In that, in some way?
No, they pay a lower condo fee. I mean, we can't say that they can't pay condo fees just because they're an affordable unit, but they have to be in proportion to what
Okay.
their, what they pay for their property. And so I'm not really sure how they calculate it.
Okay.
But unfortunately, they had every right to do it, and, you know, it remains to be seen what they're going to do.
I think affordable housing is like 10% of the total of the units.
Yeah, I just don't know how many units are up there.
Yeah.
I want to say 20-something, but that could be low. I don't
Oh,
know.
I
As
think
far as
it's
the
a-
number of affordable units,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not
okay.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, they kept building, they kept adding buildings.
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
there.
there were stages and everything, yeah.
Yeah, so I have not heard back from Chapa since the original email. I told her I would bring it up at the next trustees meeting. But I don't know. They don't really have a choice, so we have to decide whether we want to help them or not. And these condo fees are going to be for the next, I believe it's 3 years.
Three-year assessment for the capital projects.
Yeah, it's a special assessment. Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything that the Housing Trust could do in a lump sum payment to?
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one of the things we're going to talk about, if there's something that we can negotiate with the condo association, because they actually did tell their homeowners that they would get a discount if they paid a lump sum upfront, rather than pay it over the time. It might only be a year, I might be wrong on the 3-year, but they, once we talk about it Tuesday night at our meeting, if we decide it's something that one can do, I think we can do it, I think it's allowed. And if we want to do it, we'll have to talk to the condo association and find out if they're willing to take some lump sum from us and,
Who sets the rules on the 40B? The state?
yes,
So
John's more
somebody should-
familiar with that than I am.
Right, well, I'm just thinking that somebody should, maybe talk to the state and find out, maybe they need to put something in there as a percentage of a year, that you can only go up
Yeah.
a certain percentage a
I-
year,
I know Chapa checked with HUD to make sure that this was allowed
Yeah.
to be done.
But to John's point, somebody could use this in the wrong way,
Yep,
and we're putting in 40Bs, and it'd be a waste of time, they'd be everybody would be out.
well, I mean, just because it gets foreclosed on doesn't take it out of its affordability. It just means that these people lose their home, and then it goes on the market as an affordable unit.
And is foreclosure going to be the only option, or would they have the ability, could they?
Well,
yeah,
the
it's-
condo association would have to foreclose, because I would imagine that these owners are going to continue to pay their mortgage.
Right.
So it would be up to the condo
Okay.
association to then foreclose for non-payment of condo
Condo
fees,
fees,
which
got
they
it.
have a right to do. Now, the bank may turn around and not want that to happen, and they may pay the condo fees and then charge the buyer, and then the buyer ends up being in arrears on their mortgage, and then their mortgage is foreclosed on. So it could be a big domino effect. So the hope is to try to do something before it gets that far. And hasn't been any explanation as to why, when I first received the phone call, there were questions about, well, did somebody steal the money? What happened to the money? Who was managing it? Is this a lawsuit that you can bring up rather than start assessing all your unit owners? So there were a bunch of unanswered questions that we still don't have. And I know that, at least me personally, I'm not going to vote to spend our money unless I know what the reason is behind all of this, and how did this happen to begin with? How did they get so far in arrears and so bad on their maintenance that they have to do this to all of the unit owners, really, not just the affordable ones, but.
Good. Any other questions anybody has? This is really helpful, thank you.
Okay.
I think, too, if you can keep us posted in terms of what happens with what we just talked about. And,
Yeah.
I just think in general, if, from time to time, if anything happens, because you're going to be here anyway, if you could let us know, because I think, our sophistication with the housing piece, it's no surprise, is less than the other two areas. So the more that we learn and the more we talk about it, the better off I think we are in terms of funding future projects, so,
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
We definitely will keep you in the loop and
yeah.
probably come looking for money.
And you seem to be an expert, Lori, on this, so
Yeah.
it's great. And
I wouldn't say an expert, I'm still learning, so.
it shows that you have passion for it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. The next item, too, was Bill's item, so I just assumed pass on it, because I'm not completely sure, where he wanted to go with that. So, I think the third one, Denman, was yours, so the floor is yours.
Okay. So in an effort to add some transparency to the process, as I came onto the board within the last year, it was all very new to me, and all you folks did a wonderful job of educating me. But I think there could be some better transparency for the public about how we ultimately qualify and then choose projects, right? Because our goal is to get more people to come and submit projects to us. So I did a little research, and I was looking around, and I found quite a few CPCs within the Commonwealth that use this form, and the one that's in your packet's from the town of Grafton. But this identical forms are used by dozens of other CPCs throughout the Commonwealth, Chatham, Agawam. I mean, I don't know them all off the top of my head, but there are numerous ones, and they all seem to use this exact same sort of criteria. And, when projects come in, the initial assessment is done, each board member goes through, make sure, checks off all the things that it qualifies for. And that way, when the public, either, in the present or not too distant future or in the way future wants to go back and look about why we may have picked one project over another, this is a place to start where they can say, okay, this one had, five positive marks in the historic preservation selection criteria, and this one had one. You know what I mean? So it gives us, I think, a little bit of transparency with the public about why we have chosen to fund one project over another. I think this is stuff that we do already in the midst of our conversations, and I think this is just a way to add, like I said, additional transparency to the public. So I thought I would bring it up, give everybody the packet, and I'm certainly not expecting everybody to buy into it tonight, but take a look at it and let me know, and I think we should discuss it at a further, more at a further meeting.
So would this be in addition to, or replacing?
No, so the application would still be the beginning, right? Yeah. So when we get all of the applications with the projects and the paperwork that come, we can then have them in front of us, right, and say, okay, this one's affordable housing. So we're going to go to the affordable housing section. We're going to say, or we'll say open space. Okay, is it within the delineated wellhead protection? Obviously some of these are going to be superfluous and some of them are not. But, would this proposal contribute to the greenway? Check. Would it not? No check. You know what I mean? So that way we can see if we have someday 17, projects that could potentially be funded over the open space portion of our money, that we could then say, hey, look, this one checks 21 of our 20 things. And I'm not saying that we necessarily have to use these ones. We could choose our own or take a portion of these or something like that. Does that make sense, Terry?
And these aren't something the applicant would fill out.
No, these would be us.
Yeah.
Yeah, either as a committee, one packet. I mean, that's the way I envisioned it, but certainly it could be individually as well as committee members. But I think
Most of these aren't subjective.
No, these are not subjective.
Yes or
These are
no.
factual based, right?
Yeah, I guess let's take this thing we just had.
Yeah.
Because one of my concerns is that we ought to have criteria that are easily, simple to manage, evaluate, and so forth. And, something like giving $100,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust, I mean, we've done it every year for a long period of time, and there are other recurring programs like the recreation program for the different playgrounds that we've done. I mean, we can fill this thing out, but it feels to me we're going to fund it. I mean, it's just, what I want to make sure is that we don't, you know what I mean? It's like filling in boxes. I want to do something substantive, meaningful, useful, valuable.
No question. So I think this is a way to qualify each project, right? Not to choose each project, not to select the funding. So this is just a way to qualify, to make sure each one is qualified to receive our funding.
Well, if I'm hearing you right, it's also for after we've already approved the project, to be able to go back and have something we can stand
Yes.
behind to say it met these criteria? Right?
Correct.
Hearing that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do that, and I think we do it well. If you want to put it on a sheet of paper, I'm perfectly fine with doing that. But again, I think the approach that we've had of trying to do things by consensus is a positive one, and I would hope that in doing something like this, we wouldn't move away from doing that, because I think it's powerful. I think also, we have, in all the years that I've been on this committee, there's probably been only 1 or 2 years where we were ever put in a situation of where there was a lifeboat situation, if you will, where there was not enough money to fund well-deserving projects.
Sure.
I can only think of 1 year where that occurred, literally. So, you know, yeah, maybe shame on us, we don't get enough applications, but I think it's actually because the universe of possibilities is relatively limited. I mean, when
Sure.
you really think about it, I mean, like related to open space, you know, you're probably, you know, they come opportunistically, you know, and there's a few that come strategically, but, you know, for example, when we did the Rolling Ridge project, that came after like 5 years worth of talking to the director of the place to even convince him to do it. And so we're not going to see 5 or 7 land projects come up in a given year. They're probably going to come up less frequently than that. One of the things, though, that you said that I think is actually a good point is,
Because the other ones weren't?
yeah, a particularly good point.
No, I understand.
Is that maybe we need to put a little bit more effort in about soliciting ideas from people. I mean, even though I said, I honestly
Sure.
think in the end, we're not going to get that much more, but, you know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe there's people that want to do something that we haven't reached yet.
Yep.
And that, I think, would be a very valuable thing to do.
Well, I don't disagree, and I think that will be, you know, discussed when we talk about Bill's proposal.
Yeah.
Too. But I think, you know, just to circle back to a point you had earlier, I don't disagree with you. I agree wholeheartedly that I think we do a good job of this already in our discussions. I just think, you know, previously to the meeting before this, we weren't on television, right? So nobody would have known, aside from the people in that room or the 1 or 2 people that come, that we did do that well, right, already. Now that we're on TV, certainly people have a better indication of that. But I think, you know, listen, if we all got hit by a bus tomorrow, I think it's just good best practices to have something like this in effect so that, you know, somebody could open the files one day and say, okay, look, I get it. So, you know, just by passing an eye test and saying, oh, this one had 7 check marks. I get it.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and I don't mind doing that to get a little bit more formality in what we do, so.
Because I absolutely do not dispute the fact that we already do this. I think that's absolutely clear. I think I certainly would not press us to do anything that doesn't, you know, meet with consensus if we didn't absolutely have to, and I don't see any reason why that would need to change. I mean, I think we do a very good job of coming to that consensus.
I think that a checklist or some kind of qualifications is a good idea, but I also don't feel that like a bottom line data number of votes here, votes here, votes here could ever replace the heart and soul of discussions and the things we've done over the years.
No question, and this would not be meant to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you said this is a almost identical use in a number of different towns throughout the Commonwealth. Do you know where it came from?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. No.
So, but it is kind of a, you know, when you're going through and you're listening to a project, if you were just sitting here, you know, it would be good to look at some of these that you may not have paid attention to, you know, but, so I have no problem with making it, you know, part of the, you know, a part of our, I don't want to kill Laurie with paperwork either,
No,
but,
I would certainly not be my intention.
yeah.
And I think that we would need to take a look at this, right, and decide if some of these things we have no use for, and some that may not be on here that we feel are more important to us, right? But please don't misunderstand. Nothing about this would be meant to change the discussions that we have to ultimately select the project. That was not my thought nor intention.
CJ?
Good.
No, I think it is very valuable, and then to triage the questions. And I think, too, in our discussion, I think that is very helpful because we kind of like cull out a lot of information from the various members. So, and to your point, with the documentation and everything, I think, that's a good idea. Not just so much check marks or anything, but maybe just make a statement on that.
Well,
So-
to that statement, though, we should start on a cover page for it. It might be something to the effect that this is used as a guide, not as a final decision. Because in the case of what we just talked about, the housing, I don't want someone to come back and say,
No.
my project had 5 and that one only had 1, and you guys voted for that one and not that.
Yep, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I looked at this, my apologies, but I think that that does, in this one example, I think that it does say, that terminology to that effect in here someplace. But what I would submit possibly is, why don't I, Brian, to your point, try and find out where this originated, right? Try and find out where it came from, and see if I can get better intent behind it, and all that sort of thing, and bring it back and inform the board more.
It would be kind of neat to see, like, maybe it's Grafton or something, like, how they actually use it in practice,
Yeah.
maybe get sort of an example of where it came in handy, and so forth.
I would absolutely offer to take on, calling some of these. I have the list at home of all that I could easily find other communities that use this form.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to call
Yeah,
them
that's great.
and do some research.
Yeah, good.
I didn't want to do that without at least getting some buy-in from you folks that you would be amenable.
No,
at
I
least.
think, imitation is the highest
Well,
compliment.
I always tell my kids
yeah.
not to give in to peer pressure, right? And that's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm asking us to do.
Yeah,
so.
so,
And I
yeah.
also think it's not reinventing the wheel. I mean, it's
Right.
smart to use what's been successful other places and fine tune it and tailor it to our needs.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
it on the other side of it, it's validation of our decisions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Good.
Good. If everybody could actually maybe take a look and provide some feedback on
That'd be
it.
great.
I had a few things that I would add,
Sure.
to it, and, but this is great, yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's good. Yeah.
Thank you.
So why don't we, Laurie, put this on again next month so we can continue the conversation? Okay, let's see, do we have any? I guess maybe we'll use 4 as maybe a little bit broader. I don't know, first of all, if anybody does have any projects that they wanted to talk about, specific ones. I think everybody got the, out here. Good, yeah.
No. Yep.
But we might even want to just talk in general about what's going on with some of the projects, if anybody's got an update on anything.
I would like to see if we can get housing in for an update on a lot of the projects that we've got going on. That's a good idea. Maybe the next meeting, if we can get her to attend.
This is, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we should have her come in. This trail stuff, even though, let's see, I think it's closed out. No, but there were a couple of multi-use trails. There's, some of the trail stuff that's going on is picking up momentum in the planning department. And Laurie, I don't know if you know anything too much about it, but it is my understanding that we're actually investing more resources in some of the the trails and work and so forth, it might be a good idea. I can talk to Gene about that and see if,
It's project 1333 on here.
yeah.
133 multi-use trails.
I can talk to Gene about that, because I know it got delayed for some reason, but it's actually, I think they've got some good ideas, and it would be good to see what progress they're making on this, and then, so I'll see maybe if I can get her in or somebody in for our next meeting.
John, can I just bring up one thing? I think I sent it to you in an email on the burial grounds. So I was trying to identify what project funds were supposed to come out of for a request for funding that they put in.
Yes,
And when I pulled the file, their application that they put in 2017, the Historical Society and North Parish Church, they put in an application for $150,000, which is project number 1356. On that application, they indicated that the CPA funding from 2013, which is project number 1316, had been completed. So if that's the case,
We can close that out.
I think you might want to close that. They indicated that on their application in 2017.
well, let me just see, I'm trying to,
Or you're saying they did that without spending all the funds?
Well, it's two different
Yeah, it's-
applicants. The second burying ground is, who put the request in for that? The church or the society?
Historical Society and the church together. I have it right there.
Okay, yeah, so the first burying ground is a town project.
Okay, well, I just, they have indicated that the 2013 CPA-funded project is complete, which would be project 1316.
I think we should just take one further look back at the application before we close it, because it may turn out that, and you might know too, yeah.
One or two more
I
things
just-
that we have to finish up in the first burying
Can you
ground.
find that
so-
out for the next meeting?
Yeah.
They put in, Laurie, another one in 2014, preservation of the second burying ground. That was a study that we funded for the church and the society. Could that be the one that they're talking about?
It might be.
Yeah, I think that's the one they're referring to, I think.
Where's that?
1325. I think that's the one they're referencing,
Okay.
which they would have submitted it in the fall of 13, so that's probably what that means.
There's money left in that one, too.
Yeah. But I will check on the first burying ground and make sure that we can close that out for the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the very original project, 1249, we did close that one
That
out,
was
so that was closed out. That was for the first burying ground. But I think 1316 was phase 2 of the first.
Correct.
Yeah,
And 1325 was the study that we funded for the church and the society on the second burying ground.
yeah. And then, yeah. And then 1356 is actually the work.
The project.
Yeah,
I mean, even if we could close 1325, that would be good, too.
Yeah.
yeah. Let's just, if you could just check,
I'll
CJ,
double
and get
check,
back to us, that'd be awesome.
And I think 1326 needs to be checked as well. I have that file here too. That was another question I had.
We just did one final expenditure on the, on 1316, I think, 2 months ago. We put in a gate. There used to be a gate at the entrance to the first burying ground, so that we replicated the gate and put the gate back. And I believe that's been paid. So I think that was the very last thing, so I'll double check that. But that has
That
been
might have
done.
been that encumbrance
Yeah.
item there, because remember, Laurie, I signed the invoice on that one, yeah. So everybody up for sometime during this year, a Stevens Estate, meeting again, and maybe get the Stevens Estate Board to come, because I think last year we had a meeting there, but we didn't meet with their board. This year it would be a good idea to meet with their board, yeah.
So, some of the other projects that I wanted to look at, and I sent Lori a message, like, for example, this Rolling Ridge, we need that parking lot. They've kind of put in some type of a parking lot there that has no signage, and it's very dangerous to get in and out of, and in bad weather, you could never use it. I went up there, and there was nobody there at all, and I parked in the regular parking area, and I was told I was trespassing to get off the property, so.
Yeah, I mean, it actually, you guys met the new rector there. He's a nice guy, and I think the reason why we ran into him recently is he came to the planning board for a project, and, I got him afterwards, and I think he is willing to work with us on that and about putting in a proper parking lot. I don't know if you've had any conversation with the Conservation Commission about that and about taking the lead on that, because you guys are the stewards ultimately of the land.
Have you been looking at that? Because they cut down all the trees up there. And then they cut out for a parking lot, and they filled it in.
Yeah, I will check
But
with,
it's very
with
rough.
Jen on that, yeah.
Yeah, and, but what we need there is a comfortable entrance and access, so that you're not coming up a hill and gunning it through the dirt to get out, and you need good signage to let people know why they can park there, and that it's available, I think we need to do it and do it right, and however we have to fund that, I think it has to happen, so that people use it, because I've been sending people up there, I didn't know they were gonna be sent away, because there's no way you would take a regular car and pull into that
Put it
parking
in
lot,
there,
and
yeah.
it wouldn't, and I was in my truck, and I wouldn't, because I couldn't back up, it would take me 15 times to turn around in there. Yeah.
I think too, one of the things, as we start to do all these things, some uniform sign that says north end of town, north end of a CPC funded,
Right.
public, whatever, so
That goes
that,
to-
that goes back to getting things out into the community, because people aren't even aware of all the things we've done. So some kind
Yeah,
of,
some of that, but I think it also, what does the Conservation Commission put on just generally town-owned properties? Do you have signs?
We have little, I'll check into that.
Because I'm thinking that maybe we have sort of a dual-purpose sign, one that does both what the Conservation Commission wants, and this is a chance to say it's a CPA-funded project.
I'll check with Jennifer. I know that they did put some kind of signage on kiosks around the trail, so I'll check
Yeah.
into that
Because
as
I'm
well.
wondering, just in general, because you have more experience with, parking areas in, like, do they work and they don't work and that sort of thing, and, what you generally use for those. I mean,
So another question, when you do build this parking lot, and I'm sure it'll be nice, but who maintains it at that point? Do we notify DPW that this parking lot exists and that it needs to be looked at from time to time? I just want to make sure it's
well,
not
this
a
one's a little
forgotten.
different because we actually don't own the land.
Right.
And, unlike most of the other places, all the open other space properties, the town owns it. So what we would probably want to do is enter into an agreement with them, but the question is, maybe this is a conversation the next time we have the town manager in, about how we do maintenance for some of these things.
Is there an easement, or is this just a restriction that you have on it?
Yeah, well, the whole thing on Rolling Ridge is conservation restriction with an
Got it.
easement,
Okay.
for passage through most of the property,
Okay.
so, yeah.
When that gentleman told you to, get off, you should have showed him your CPC card.
You didn't care.
Maybe we need badges.
Yeah, we need
Well, I think we all know that Tracy has a very strong feeling on the parking lots, so I think we should wait, I would love to get her input as well.
Yeah, but, we have money available. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a question of, because we've talked at different times, is it a Boy Scout project? Like, for example, the very first open space project that CPA funded was Carter Hill. And Carter Hill, the small parking area was put in by the Boy Scouts. So, you know, that dovetailed pretty nicely. But I think the idea is, even if they build it, how do you maintain it, and can you sustain that with, you know, that kind of ad hoc volunteer effort? Probably not. But this is maybe where the Trails Committee comes in, because they're really focused more on maintaining our things and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they think the parking lot is acceptable the way it is, but it's not.
No, it's not.
No.
Yeah, well, they like it like that
Yeah,
because
and nobody uses it. Exactly.
John, can we get that guy in to talk to him about it?
Yeah, I think we could. I think we ought to talk among ourselves first and then bring him in. I mean, because the only thing I worry about is I don't want to put a guy like that on the spot.
Right.
And get him defensive. You know, it just doesn't work well that way. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So. Okay. Anything else?
So is that on the agenda for next time, parking lots to be reviewed? and-
Yeah, let's put that on too, yeah. I was going to say, sort of while we're talking about projects and so forth, has anybody sort of heard anything on possible applications, things that people are thinking of? Terry, usually you're as close.
You know, I don't know how some of it would go. I know there's some talk, what year did they do the fire station over in the old center?
What year did they do?
Are they gonna, it's on the master plan.
I don't think it's on the facilities master plan 2, right?
Oh, yeah,
It hasn't
yeah.
been put on yet.
Okay.
That's gonna
Well,
be talked about it.
I know Chief McCarthy has talked to me several times about putting in some type of historic piece to it, you know, and see and whether or not that would be fundable. We have a guy in town who's collected somewhere around 200 firemen's helmets from all over the area and that type of thing. A lot of fire memorabilia, and then we have now, which are complete, the hose pumps and all of that. One is gonna go here at the town hall, one's gonna go at the fire station, at the new fire station. And they thought maybe the third one could go in there, or they're gonna put something outside and, so it's covered, so they can restore it. They came out unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah, nobody's doing anything right now because of the gas problem, and everybody's busy with a lot of other things, so they're not bringing them down. They don't want to deal with it right now, but they're coming down. They'll be here before Christmas, you know.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, look, they'll probably be in the parade at Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're gonna be, and they came out better than you can imagine, so.
Yeah.
So they're looking, he's talking about if there was some type of a wing, some type of park, because at the playground across the street, all the kids come over, you know, and that type of thing. They thought it would be a nice thing to have. But that's one thing that was brought up. I should update you on the middle school project. All the borings got done, and we got back the word from the engineers that the soil tested just the way we wanted it to. It's going to, we're going to be able to put in a nice underground drainage system, which will not incorporate any, what do they call them? The holding areas where you're, yeah, there won't be anything like that up there, which was great. So we have full use of the area. And as far as expense goes, it's probably going to lessen it a little bit.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What's the best case scenario?
Yeah, it was what we were hoping for. Yeah.
Just getting back to the helmet display, or what would you foresee it being? I mean, it wouldn't be like a building or anything, would it be a
It would be a part of the building. They would probably bring out something.
2x4 or something?
Yeah, but it's Billy. I don't know. I don't have any, I didn't really think about it. It's not my thing. It's what the firemen were looking to do.
Okay.
Just a place to, because we have all this equipment. I mean, they could make, the governor, we found the governor, the old pump truck, which we all used to use at Musters when I was a kid. And now, you know, we lended it to someone because we had nowhere to keep it down here. And now it's up in New Hampshire, and they're saying, do you want it back? But nobody knows where we would put it. We don't have anywhere to put these items. This is the problem. And then we got notified of another fire truck that was North Andover's, that somebody else has been using in parades, an old steam truck, and asked us if we wanted it back. But again, we have nowhere to put it.
Build
So,
a garage.
Well, how about your real landlord?
well, they're full,
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can't, people are waiting for space down there now, so. But they were great to store things for a while, but then they pushed us out.
That's awesome.
But that's pretty much the only project I've been,
What do you think on the Fields project is the timing of when it's going to be noticeable that work is being done?
so right now they're in design, so everything's being designed. Everything's gonna get shut down, and weather permitting, January 1, something's gonna start taking place. If there's a foot of snow out there, nothing's probably gonna take place. If not, I think they plan on, they told everybody that there isn't gonna be anything up there, you're not even allowed on the property, it's gonna be fenced off as of January 1.
Okay.
So, weather is gonna dictate when they're gonna start. But the first thing is to take all the loom off the site, or the majority of it. And then, they'll start grading. And like I said, a mild winter, and they're gonna get way ahead, so.
How long do they anticipate it taking?
Yeah, well, I think the money's gonna dictate that more than anything, because we don't have the rest of the money, so you'll have to wait till July before we'll have more money available, because we can't even go out to bid until we have the money in hand.
So they're
So,
gonna start moving dirt without having all the,
no, we have enough money right now to do all of that site work.
okay,
So that, all that can move forward.
but not
Yeah,
necessarily complete the project.
Correct.
Okay.
So what about the fundraising?
Well, right now, they put together a fundraising committee, they got a group put together, and we're gonna hire a company to help us to go after some of the larger companies. None of us feel really comfortable and feel we're gonna be very successful when we start knocking on the big doors. So we're gonna get a company to do that. And that's what we're going through now. So,
You doing RFPs, Terry?
this is all, first we want to meet with the company, we want to find out we don't want to get too aggressive until they get involved.
Yep.
And then they tell us what's theirs, what's ours, and
Yep.
who's
Right.
going to do what. We have a lot of good ideas, and there's a lot of people participate. I don't want to really put a lot of things out there, and there's a lot of, we've gotten approached by people with equipment who are willing to give us matching dollars for a lot of the stuff, because this is such a nice project, they want their stuff out there.
Yeah.
And it's, so there's gonna be money coming in, call it the back door, if you will, through the way it goes. But, and then there's some other groups that want to team up with us for use of the field, and are willing to, there's groups up to as much as $100,000 each are willing to put forward to be able to have some use of the field.
Use of the field, yeah.
So, there's a lot going on, so.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Is there anybody else that we would like to invite in over the next few months for updates? Should we have the town manager in, maybe not this coming month, to talk about this project, and maybe a few other ones?
That's great.
Yeah.
You might want to wait till the December meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, yeah.
Why, is he busy?
Or even January, I think at that point, they'll have that design, and he'll have a little more to talk about, I think, than December,
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Anybody else? Do we want to have the library back to talk? Because they still have a few open things.
If they do, could Steve be there? If the library comes in, Steve Foster, because he's the one, he's gonna know most everything that's going
Yeah.
on. I see him there almost every day. He's doing something. But the roof came out great. looks terrific. And I think the work they did, they matched the bricks really nicely. They did a nice job.
Over the last month, it's a good thing that they have a good roof, that's for sure.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So, okay, good. So that's that. Okay, minutes from June 14th. Anybody,
I haven't seen them.
do we have them?
They're in the packet. Yep.
Oh, are they? I'm sorry. That's all right, I'm good. If somebody has them, I'm happy with that. Thanks.
Laura, my last name was misspelled.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Let's see if my name was misspelled too.
This is easy.
Looks good to me,
No, I got it right. Yeah.
other than,
Everybody's name gets misspelled sooner or later, right?
Do we want to finish the last item here? I don't know if we can go back into that and vote for the chair. Let's just have that done tonight.
Yeah, we're going to do that. That's the last item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Make a motion to accept the minutes?
Yes, motion made. Somebody will make a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Oh, I saw that.
yeah. And the last item is the election of officers. So, and we've talked about that, but so I don't know if anybody wants to make a motion?
I make a motion for John to be continuous chair for another year.
Second.
And certainly, I'm willing to work with anybody that wants to pick it up after me, but let me know, and we can do that, but, for another year, I think it probably makes sense, so. So, all in favor? Aye. Okay, good, thank you. So any other business? Oh, the vice chair. Who wants to be vice chair?
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
so somebody make a motion to that?
So,
Donovan, and
Second.
second, all in favor? Aye. Good.
Thanks.
The chairman of vice. So, anything else before we break? Good, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.